Hi, good afternoon, folks. My name is Akash Jain, and I'm your host for today. Welcome to Next Gen Wealthcast. I am extremely excited to bring on and introduce to you my good friend Trevor. Trevor, welcome to the show.
Very excited to be here. I know we've known each other for quite a while now.
No, it's been a very it's been great to watch your journey, Trevor, from being a LP, one of the few LPs that I knew who invested a lot as an LP, and then moving on to the GP side. It has been a very fun, interesting ride watching you grow. Hey, I would love for you to dive into your story and
Yeah.
tell our listeners as to, hey, how you invested, picked your was a limited partner for a long time, and then moved into being a general partner, and your background as well, please.
Yeah, so I was always interested in real estate. So I'm originally from Niagara Falls, Canada. I've spent my whole life in the attractions and entertainment. So through high school, I worked with Ripley's Believe It or Not. I did 18 years with Guinness World Records. Strangely enough, moved to America from Canada and opened up a year-round haunted house. And then I spent 20 years with iFly Indoor Skydiving, opened 46 of 80 locations all over the world. Quite interesting that I was always interested in real estate. It fascinated me, but I was terrified of toilets, tenants, and trash. I did not want to become a landlord. When my wife tells me the toilet doesn't work, I panic. I can't imagine making that like how I'm going to invest my money. So I was always interested. If your listeners haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a must read. But don't make the mistake I made. Understand it and then put it on the shelf. And that's what I did for way too long.
Very cool, very cool. Hey, I love Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Folks, if you haven't read it, it is a must read. It is a
Yes.
must read. It's an eye opening book. I think a lot of us real estate investors have read it. I think about 99%, I would say, have read it. It is a very amazing read.
It is.
Trevor, hey, the Ripley, believe it or not, hey, I would like to believe it. Tell
Yeah.
us one quirky incident that you remember from being a part of Ripley's.
Well, Ripley's wasn't quite as exciting, but Guinness World Records when I transitioned to there. So back when Michael Jackson was still with us, and it was right when he signed the largest record contract with Sony Records, we gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. And actually, the founder of the Guinness Book of Records flew over from London, and we went to lunch with him. And again, not very many people can say they had lunch with Michael Jackson. He was amazing, but really shy. But again, who could ever say that they had lunch with Michael Jackson? Not very many of my friends. So that was amazing.
Well, MJ, huh? Hey, I grew up listening to all his songs, and that was back in India, man. He was one of the most popular
Amazing,
icons.
talented man. Just yeah, just an amazing artist. And I mean, we gave him he was the king of pop, and we gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award. And not nobody's really touched him to date.
No, no, none have even come close. Question around your investments, Trevor. I know you've done a lot of investing as a limited partner.
Yeah,
Uh,
so what happened is again, as I told you, I was always interested in real estate, but I was afraid of single family toilets, tenants, and trash. And then again, I always thought you had to be a millionaire to be able to invest in commercial real estate. Like a lot of people believe, oh, there's no way I could invest in commercial real estate. And fortunately for me, iFly did get bought out by a private equity company. I had a pretty sizable payday, and I went, okay, I have to figure this out because 20 years, 30 years, I've been thinking about it. And I went to a seminar and I learned all about syndications. And it was like I found my first love. I went, where have you been my whole life? This is what I'm looking for. Because I don't want to manage a property. I want to give my money to people that actively manage the asset. They take care of everything. They're professionals, they're experienced, and I'm a passive investor, but I still own a piece of the real estate. and I share in the rewards with them. And it was like, goodness me, where have you been? You know, I'm 58 years old. I've been literally interested in real estate all of my life, and I never heard of it. And then, as you mentioned, I started passive investing. I've been a passive investor now in 20 syndications in the last 6.5 years. And so clearly I jumped in with both feet. And, and the beauty of a syndication is you can find people you know, like, and trust. That's the most important part. But you actually own a piece of the asset. You get all of the benefits, all of the tax benefits, and then you get a share of the profits. And most people don't know this, the largest share. So most of my investments are a 70-30 split. 70% of the money goes to us as passive investors. And I don't know why nobody knows this. I didn't know it. So I've made it my mission, and I know you have too, to make sure people understand that you can invest with the millionaires, and it's just powerful.
No, that's an amazing story. So, Trevor, the 20 investments that you are invested in, how many have gone full cycle?
So about half of them have gone full cycle. A couple of them have been absolutely amazing. Most have paid off what they contribute. I'm going to be honest, a little bit lately with the interest rates and a few other things. There's a couple, but on average, I'm still on track to double my money every 5 years. So, when you take everything into an account, and again, you have to remember, I'm doing this in my sleep, right? I gave my money to people, and I know because I'm on the active side now, and it's a lot of work. And and they do all of the work for you. So it's amazing. And you can also invest in all different types. So multifamily, you can invest in new retail, storage, assisted living, medical. You can spread out your assets so great with the real estate.
Those are some nuggets to be, looking at, Trevor. Right? Hey, when you say double your money in 5 year, folks, that is about 17% IRR. Year over year. No, I don't know how many of you can say that you will achieve those kind of returns in the stock market.
Yes,
And
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 then
then
add the tax advantages, right? So again, with depreciation, and fingers crossed, the new big bill goes through and it goes back up. But still, if you think about it, you get all of the tax advantages of the wealthy, and as a passive investor, you can, and where else can you invest and save money on the tax on the money you make? There's nowhere, nothing else, no other asset class other than, yes, oil and gas. I know you mentioned I have not done that area, but I mean, I still love real estate. I still love real assets.
and another amazing thing that you touched on, Trevor, is, hey, I'm a big believer in diversification. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in multiple asset classes. That's why even my fund is called multi-asset generational.
Yes.
Hey, multiple different asset classes, creating generational wealth for my friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you talk about the passive investments, hey, multiple different, even in real estate, multiple different asset classes, not
Yes.
only multifamily, but also your storages,
Yeah.
your triple net, or your retail. Uh, how diversified were you in your 20 limited partner deals?
So I was about 50% multifamily, but even within the multifamily, I had some diversification. So probably half of those were what's called value add multifamily. And then I invested in a couple of new build. So one that was freshly built, A-class property, another one where they bought the land and they were going to, and then a third one where they built an A-class. So again, I had diversification, right? So the workforce housing, the forced appreciation value add, all the way up to creating something new in a market that had shortage of housing. Plus, I've been invested in a couple of states. So again, I like landlord friendly pro business states. So sorry, California, it's going to be tough to get my money, but I've been invested in Arizona, Texas, North and South Carolina, and Georgia. All that sort of, those are all really good states with huge, huge population shifts to those areas. And that's perfect for us. And never in the history of anything has the delta between your rent and your mortgage been greater. I mean, it's almost like 55% bigger gap because housing prices went way up. And we all know interest rates went way up. And sadly, the average person, an average family, is now priced out of home ownership. So providing them with a clean, safe, great place to live through apartments or other asset type classes, it's never been a greater space to be able to invest in.
And not only that, I think there is a greater good as well because what you're doing is you're building communities. A lot of us, I'm like, I don't call myself a landlord. I'm not sure, I don't think you call yourself a landlord either. We are not. I think we are building communities.
Yes.
Yes, hey, it is an investment for us, but at the same time, we're building communities, providing food, providing shelter
Yeah.
to a lot of the working class families, if you may.
Yeah. And you're spending a lot of money fixing up where they live. You're adding because again, tenant retention is huge, right? So you want to create this community where they have this sense of community. There's places for their kids to go play. There's resident appreciation events. There's referral programs for them to bring if they don't like where they live, they're not going to refer their friends and family. And for us, it's huge. We get like almost half of our tenants from their friends coming, and then we give them an incentive for inviting them. But if you don't like where you live, you're not going to invite your friends, right? You're going to move. And so it just creates it's a win-win, right? Because the community and the residents win, and us as investors win.
The great points there, Trevor. Hey, before we dive into a few more serious topics, I want to talk to you a little bit about, hey, so maybe ask you a question which is a little bit off track. Question around, hey, if you were, what is a food that you like, which a lot of your loved ones don't know that you like that much? That you get up in the middle of the night and go to the fridge and open it up and chew on.
So it's kind of funny. I love fudgicles of all things to love. And in fact, my doctor told me I had to cut them out, and I told my wife I need to go to Fudgicles Anonymous because I love them. It's because they're cold and they're sweet, and I don't know, it just satisfies everything. And just like chips for others, for me, I can't just have one. So not many people know that. So I've been 1 month without a fudgicle because I had some test readings that weren't so good. But they're when I hit my goal, they're going to be my new. That I'm going to have them as treats.
Wow, so you got a sweet tooth there, my friend, huh?
I do.
Very cool, very cool. Hey, question around the due diligence process, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and plus all the learnings that you've had over your 20 limited partnerships. How do you approach any syndication these days or any new deal that comes your way? What are some of the things that you're looking for? What is your due diligence process look like?
Yeah, so mostly who I invest with is most important. And I will spend my best investment to date. I spent 1 year just getting to know the team, getting to know them. And interestingly enough, they had a webinar that talked about a deal that didn't go so good. But that actually encouraged me because I thought, okay, they've learned lessons and they're honest enough to share that they've had some struggles and they learned some lessons. And I had great confidence investing them for the future. And so I invested, and like I said, it was my best investment to date. And they did so well. The money showed up at my bank account at 10 in the morning and went to their next deal at 11 the same day. Like literally, it didn't even spend the night in my bank account. Because once you find somebody that you know, like, and trust, it's huge. It really is. It's so who you give your money to is most important. And then I have another thing, and it's not too technical. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And so when you see these things on Facebook or LinkedIn promising things that just don't seem so good, they probably aren't. So look for people with realistic business plans, realistic projections, and again, find people you know, like, and trust. And like is huge, right? You want to do business with people that you like.
Yep.
because you're going to be a partner with them for 5 years when you give them the money. Um, and I think the last one is trust your gut. Eventually, once you get some educated, you'll be like, well, I'm going to do it because of this or that. And every time I've gone against my intuitions, and again, that all boils down to, knowing, liking, trusting, feeling comfortable. Who you give your money to is huge, right? A good sponsor can get a bad deal better, and a bad sponsor can make a good deal bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. Trevor, talk to us a little bit about, hey, the bridging the gap, getting from being an LP, limited partner, to a general partner. And how did you, I know you are with Massive right now, Massive
Yeah.
Capital. How did you find them? How did you become, what is your story? What is your journey
Yeah.
to
So
becoming a
my
part of Massive?
my journey started, as many people's journey do, kind of accidentally. So I had invested in a property and I was really interested in learning and helping out. And then what had happened is one of the general partners had a real emergency in their family and had to step away. And I happened to be a bit of an insider, so I said, "Hey, could I volunteer to help you? I just want to," I called it earn and learn. I just want to learn. And so I actually volunteered for a year to be the asset manager of a property. And the more I got into it, the more I liked it. And I started to enjoy and started to learn it and started to see the other side. And basically the biggest difference is, right, is you need to have good partners. So so when I originally joined my first real estate group and made my first investments, they were all with one of the partners of Massive. And he's actually the one that stepped away for a family emergency and then came back. So I'd known him my whole real estate career and invested with him 5 or 6 times. He joined up with one other friend of mine I've known for about 5 years, and then another gentleman I'd known for about a year. And I actually watched them for a year. And I just thought, wow, they're doing so many amazing things. And so we started talking and said, how could we work together? What do you need? What do I need? And, I call it kind of like destiny. Like my skills, they lacked, their skills, I lacked. Like they're very
Hey,
analytical,
Trevor,
they're
you
very
there?
numbers driven, they're all MBA graduates. And I'm more of a people touchy feely, and so they said, well, what position would you like? And I created my own name, Investor Engagement, Vice President Investor Engagement, because I didn't really want to just be, get your money. I wanted to create more of a community, and I love networking with people and helping people learn and grow. And so it was like magic. So now I'm on my 13th deal as a GP. And 10 of those are with Massive Capital in the 2.5 years I've been with them. So
Very cool. I
yeah.
mean, like amazing story right there. And I believe with Massive, you're doing again more diversified stuff, and it's not just multifamily, if you may.
That's correct. We've done a lot of new build retail with a partner, and then we've actually started a mastermind on our own, and we're growing with that. And so we just did a RV park and assisted living, and we're working on a couple of industrial deals. So it's quite interesting that as we grow and we get, our goal is to be asset class in theory agnostic and just look for the best opportunities depending on where we are in the cycle and what we can find.
Very cool. Diversification, like in the stock market, right?
Yeah.
Diversification is the name of the game. Hey, another question around Trevor. I do a little bit of oil and gas, and I've done a lot of startups as well. Anything that you've done in those kind of spaces?
I've not done anything in the oil and gas, and I've not done anything in the startups other than in theory when I worked with iFly, we were a startup. So when I started with them, they were losing $50,000 a month, and 14 years later, we sold it for 280 million. so
Very cool.
so that's a startup success, and I managed to get some of that. But yeah, it's super important. But I haven't invested in other asset classes. But you kind of bring up the story, and again, I want to bring it up to who, right? So I've been following this group in North Carolina for a long time, but I had enough multifamily investments. And then literally an email comes across and they're doing a new build storage. So it's a team I already like. It's a market I've been dying to get into. and it's a new asset class I wanted to try. And this was their third one, so they had some experience in the space. And then it was just like literally I made the decision in 15 minutes. I read their stuff, looked at, fast forwarded through the video to the stuff I cared about, which is the realistic, believable expectations, and also the investor first approach. So it's a longer term investment. And the goal was to get a cash out refi, which isn't happening because interest rates aren't favorable right now, but it's still working. And they had this concept of when they doubled your money, the split went from 70-30 to 50-50. And some people think, well, you're greedy. I think, no, please double my money, baby. Double my money, because it's an infinite hold at a 50% ownership for the passive investors. It's like I call it the stars aligned, right? Everything I'm looking for in a deal, like a fair and equitable deal. And if it's a big win, I want the sponsor to make more. I want them to make more because it's a win-win, right? If they double my money, I still own half of my value. It's insane.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get jump into another question, right? Hey, I also wanted to ask you another quirky one. Here it is. If you were to act in a movie, which one would it be? What character would you play and why?
Oh man, I'd love to be Jason Statham, and do all those moves. He's such a. It's just watching him. It just looks like nobody can ever beat him, and clearly I've got the hairdo, but not the body and skills.
Very cool. Very very cool. Trevor, hey, for our investor friends here, people who are looking to get in, any other piece of advice? I get this a broad question. Any other piece of advice that you would give them, right? Hey, a lot of people are trigger shy, gun shy.
Yeah,
Hey, how can obviously, if they know somebody, if they've heard of somebody, they may get comfortable, but it's the fear of the unknown that is
yeah,
holding them back.
yeah.
How do they, any pieces of advice for those folks?
I mean, my advice is somewhat simplistic. That eventually you have to get past analysis paralysis, right? Every month, every year you wait. Again, I didn't start till I was 58. So think of this. Take $100,000 and double it in 5 years. Reinvest it for 5 years. It's 400. It's 800. It's 1.6 million. It's 3.2 million in 25 years. Just think about that, from a $100,000 investment doubled with no tax consequences. So a couple of big things. Why are you waiting? Would $3.2 million change your family's life? Change what you want to do with life? Change who you want to help? So again, you've got to eventually just say, listen, I have to do it. I can't wait any longer. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, listen, I can't wait. And then once you find some people that you feel comfortable with, you can't keep analyzing it. You'll go nowhere. And it blows my mind. We all buy mutual funds, all kinds of things with absolutely no due diligence, no fear. Why do we not fear buying real assets in real estate? It's just because America's taught us, right? Work hard, get a 401k. It goes into, I bet you half the people don't even know what's in their mutual fund. Probably 90% of the people. They don't know what's in there, but they were told it's safe.
That is very
So
true. And hey, you just mentioned 401k. I think I know you know a trick or two up your sleeve about how to use that money and put it on steroids.
yeah, so
Talk to
if
us
you
about that.
switch jobs, right? So it's very hard to do with an existing employer, and the reason it is they make a lot of money off of you. So, but once you get to the point, you can move it over to a self-directed custodian, and then you can invest with that money. And I always like to mention this: if you're younger and you're moving some money over, take the tax hit and turn it into a Roth, because it doesn't grow tax deferred; it grows tax free. So think of my scenario. I said the 100,000 turns into $3.2 million in 25 years. That's $3.1 million tax free. Just
That's
think
pretty.
of that. What in the world would that do for your children, for your loved ones, for your favorite charity? It's mind boggling.
Trevor, wow, you're a treasure chest, man. Thank, thank you. Thanks a lot for a lot of those nuggets.
Thank you. My
Hey,
pleasure. Glad to be here.
what's next?
So we're working on a couple of deals. Like I said, we're going to do a couple more retail, and I think we're getting heavier into the assisted living space. We've managed to connect with some folks that have some experience, and it looks like that's going to be the next big growth thing for us. And again, with the aging population, it's an asset class. I always tell them I have to learn this space because pretty soon I'm going to be living in it, and so I'd rather at least be the owner of the business, because it's a huge business, right? People, these are more smaller homes in neighborhoods, and creating this safe place where you can put your mom or dad, and they're close to your community. It's you want to talk about the high end of the service factor and filling a need. It's a big need.
That's the silver tsunami, folks. That's the silver tsunami that we keep hearing is coming. A lot of the baby boomers are gonna be they're looking for those homes, if you may. And Trevor is right on the money there. Hey, he's looking for that next asset, which is again going to be in high demand. Folks, this was a great conversation with Trevor. We talked about a lot of things, a lot of diversification, various different asset classes. I thank Trevor, yourself. You've been amazing. I've known you for a number of years. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. And what we will do is we'll get Trevor's information and send it to everybody and make it a slide out of on our podcast here. Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Trevor.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.